spending money is not always the key. And sometimes it could even hurt you depending on where you're at. Exhaust the free information. It is good. The free information is good. There's that stigma that free has like a little bit of a negative connotation. It doesn't. There is some bad free information, of course, just like there's bad paid information. But there's a lot of good free information out there that could help you where you're at.
Welcome to Star of the Doubts. I'm your host, Jared Easley. Joining us as always from Maui, Hawaii, aloha, Kimanzi Constable.
Aloha, Jared. It feels good to be back here with us recording these, and this has been fun.
It has been fun. It's always fun. And Kimanzi, another thing that may not seem fun, but it's a smart strategy, is free information. I know a lot of people like free, but you and I have just seen so many of our friends, so many people in the online space that are investing a lot of resources into things that may not be helpful. You mentioned Patrice Washington and her word, the shiny monkey syndrome. We get guilty of seeing, okay, here's this new product launch formula course and it's $2,000 and I'm just going to jump on this. And that may not be the thing you need right now. And you may not even need to spend that kind of money to get reasonable results with free information. So today's episode is success with free information. In our last episode, Kimanzi, you talked about how you were making some investments and that was causing trouble with Tanya, your wife. And then you decided, okay, I'm just going to work with free. I'm going to work with what I got. And then that's when you started to see results. So let's talk about success with free information.
Yeah, we live in what's called the information age. And today we have podcasts and videos and articles and all this information, and it's all available on our smartphone where we can 24/7, anywhere in the world, we can pull out our smartphone and we can get unbelievable. I mean, I'm shocked, Jared, by the information that we can get just on podcast, the information that's there. I mean, I've learned so much. So when it comes to free information, the thing that we would tell you to start off with is you probably have to filter because there is a lot. There's a ton of information. And if you just went around and tried to learn a lot of things, it would frustrate you. You would get information overload and you would be paralyzed from even doing anything. So it really starts with kind of filtering what you're taking in. And Jared, there's a great tool you told me about way back in the day that has been a lifesaver that's helped me kind of filter the information.
Let's talk about that. Which tool?
the unroll.me, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I started using that, and what I found was whether I just forgot or I got caught up in the moment and I was subscribing to all these email newsletters, that was a problem. My inbox was flooded with different messages from a lot of good-intentioned people, but it was actually more of a distraction than being helpful. And Unroll.me, in addition to those types of emails, there's a number of companies out there that have bought my email address or I opted in and didn't realize it. And we're talking about just every type of company possible. And when I used Unroll.me, I found that I was subscribed to a number of email lists that I didn't really care to be subscribed to. And that was a quick way for me to unsubscribe from them and kind of win back my inbox, which was a blessing.
Yeah, and we do it too without even realizing it. We see the freebie on somebody's website. They're offering some free course or some free guide or whatever it is, and we sign up. But the thing to think about is this the information that's going to help me where I'm at right now, whatever stage I'm at? If you are just starting out, you're probably not going to need information on SEO. You're probably not going to need advanced Facebook marketing strategies. You're probably not going to need any of that stuff. You're probably just going to need the content that's going to help you build your audience. So it starts with filtering. Okay, what do I really need to learn where I'm at? And then finding those sources of information and kind of tuning out the other stuff, just not forever, but for now. Or if you are, let's say you're a podcast junkie like I am, and you want to listen to those shows, you like those people, that's great. But realize your focus where you're going to implement is where you are at that moment. And then after you've done some filtering, it's important to set up time to do this. So time to research. Last episode, we talked about the spouse, having your spouse on board. If you're spending an inordinate amount of time just studying this stuff, watching the videos, listening to the blogs, all that good stuff, you're spending too much time doing it. You're going to turn your spouse off And more than that, you're just kind of wasting time. You should set limits on how much time you are going to do to the research process of this. What do you think about that, Jared?
I think that in the book, Stop Chasing Influencers, you actually brought up a good point. Friends, Jason and Jeremy, they do Internet Business Mastery. They talk about just-in-time learning. And that's exactly what you described. You only want to focus on the things that are going to be helpful to you right that moment. And if it's not something that applies to you right then you don't have time for it. You're not going to mess with it. You can Evernote it and save it for a rainy day, if you will.
And when you think about free information, kind of what I've heard, I've gone to several high-profile conferences, like I've gone to Brendan Bouchard events and Frank Kern events and all these big-time events. And what they'll tell you there is, as a marketer, they'll tell you to give them the what, but sell them the how. So they're going to tell you what to do, but then when it comes how to do it, they're going to try to sell you on something. But think about that. They told you what you can do. And so that information is out there. And there's a lot of very generous people that you'll find in this world that will give you a lot of very great how-to step-by-step information on how to do all of this stuff. So the information is available. It's available online. Spending money is not the key to making it happen. It's just filtering what you're going to learn, researching it, studying that information, and then implementing. And that's another thing, Jared, too, because we've seen this with classes we've done. I've seen it with classes I've done. It's one of those things in general where maybe people will have that information knowledge, but not do anything with it.
I think, to your point, a podcast, library, just even a Facebook group can be extremely valuable. If you're in a targeted Facebook group, you can go in and ask a question, and then you get 10 answers. That can be extremely valuable. And if you're not sure where to start, hey, what's the book that I can read? What's the podcast I can listen to? What's a specific episode? You know, those types of questions in a Facebook group that's real targeted can get you good answers, and that can save you a tremendous amount of time. I want to share a real quick story with you, Kimanzi. I'm a big fan of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the book. Of course, the original movie was Willy Wonka. And I was looking up to see if I could get the audiobook for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I thought, okay, I could go and buy this on Audible. And I wasn't opposed to doing that, by the way. But then it occurred to me, hey, I remember this app called Overdrive. And Overdrive allows you to check out free ebooks and audiobooks from your local library just on your mobile device. You just got to have your library card. So I downloaded Overdrive, and I was able to get the ebook for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I was like, hey, that's cool, because now I can just, reread this with Lana, my daughter, who's 4. She'll be 5 later this month. And I can just read that with her. And then I was thinking, hey, it'd be nice to listen to the audiobook while I'm driving to work or whatever. And I realized in searching, I found on YouTube that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the entire audiobook, is on YouTube for free. So I was like, okay, there's some books, of course, that are not going to be for free on YouTube. But in this case, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was. And I was able to go and listen to that while I was driving to work. And yeah, I mean, that's an extreme example, it may be, but I think that mindset there of, okay, let me exhaust the free option first. Yeah. Overdrive is a free app. Can I find this book? I did that same thing with Jim Gaffigan's book, Dad is Fat. I could have went and bought it from, Audible or Amazon, but instead I just went and looked it up, and they had it at the library, and I was able to get the audiobook from the library. So,
well, even an example of this, like in our world, is one thing that I'm kind of known for, Jared, is like writing for larger publications, right?
Yep.
And I do a lot of that. And people will reach out a lot of times and say, hey, I want to hire you to help me get into publications. And the first thing I say is, did you look at my website? Did you check out my interview at Smart Passive Income? Did you look at what I put out there? And they'll say no. And they'll say, hey, you don't have to hire me. You can listen to Smart Passive Income. I have a series on my blog, probably like 7 or 8 posts where I break it down step by step with screenshots. I'm like, why don't you try that first? See if you can get in and save yourself a little bit of money.
Okay, so there you go. But to your point, people like that convenience. They want to spend that money, and we are business people, so We want to obviously earn an income. So there is a balance there, but I think you don't always have to go out and spend tons of money. You can find what you want. So that's my advice to people is, hey, if it's a book, find out what book you need to check out and see if it's in your library. See if you can find, at a bare minimum, see if you can find a synopsis of the book online if you can't read the whole thing right then. Or if you can't find a synopsis, see if you can find interviews with that author on a podcast or on YouTube. And in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, if you listen to an interview with the author, you'll get a lot of great takeaways from that book. Would you agree, Kimanzi?
Hey, and if you're a podcaster, ding, 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 like the light bulb's going off. If you're a podcaster, interview that person. Ask them to come on your show. Ask them all those questions. Jared and I have done that.
We've done that many, many times. And the information and the valuable insights we've received from doing that on the podcast has been invaluable. I think now we're over 200 episodes of Starve the Doubts. And, you know, I don't like the word free coaching, but podcasting has allowed me to learn a lot of things in a short amount of time while also growing my network. And you've seen this too, Kimanzi.
Oh, yeah. We've made connections with, you know, we're going to be launching Stop Chasing Influencers January. And you better believe we're going to hit up some of the people that have been on the show.
Yeah, of course. And we have a connection with them, so that's not an inappropriate request, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and we're going to ask in the right way.
Well, definitely ask in the right way. We're not going to barter services or anything. But anyway, I think those are things that I would do. Go to a Facebook group that's real targeted. Ask questions if you're not sure. And then, ask around. Hey, who do you know who has done this? You know, and then you get those answers. And then you dive a little bit deeper. How did they do it? If I want to learn how to create a course, well, maybe I don't need to go out and buy all these expensive plugins and these expensive tools on WordPress. Maybe I can just do a freeconferencecall.com and have a private Facebook group. Kimanzi, you've done this and you've had great success. You've had great success with your classes, yet you're not investing in extensive membership plugins for WordPress. So let's talk about that for a second.
No, I used to use a free conference call. I use a service called Start Meeting. The only thing I pay for is a screen share, which is about $16 a month. Then I use the private Facebook groups, and then I put it behind a password protected page in WordPress. So a little bit of a rinky-dink operation, but you know what? People want the content. They don't really honestly care about the fancy plugin and this and that. Yeah, it's convenient and it's nice looking, but what they want is they want the information. And I've tried to make my information so valuable that I could put this information on a piece of paper and mail it to you. And you would be like, whoa, you know, because the content is good.
All right. So Kimanzi, you just did a webinar recently, actually this week. And how did you do that webinar? Like, what did you use? What system? What tool?
I used Start Meeting. That was Start Meeting, where I was able to get the screen share because I had walked. And if you didn't miss that, it's called Building a Lifestyle Business. You can see it in the show notes of the episode that we it would have been 2 episodes ago that we put out.
It was the Think Bigger episode.
Think Bigger, yeah. You can see that there, or you can check it out on Kimanzi Constable's YouTube channel. But it's a little webinar on what it takes to build a lifestyle business, walked you all the way through it, talked about paid speaking there at the end. But it was just on Start Meeting. I used Start Meeting. I did the screen share for people. There were 65 people on the call. They got to ask questions at the end, and it was nice.
So, Kimanzi, in our recent episode where we talked about getting your spouse on board, you told a story about you and Tanya, your wife, and how you'd spent a lot of money and you'd invested into, you know, this idea, this dream, and she was reluctant and hesitant, and you had that long come to Jesus talk, and you swore off the paid stuff temporarily to focus on what could you build with the free stuff. So let's talk about what you used. What free tools did you use in that season or that chapter of your story to help you get to where you are now?
Back then, I primarily used 2012, I primarily used blogs. I did listen to podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. I enjoy it. But I primarily used blogs where I would just look on blogs for the information that I needed. So one thing that I did a lot in 2012 was guest posting. I scoured blogs to figure out how to be the best guest poster I could be and land opportunities. And it worked because I did 50 of them. Then it was how to get on podcast interviews. So I scoured blogs on how do you approach podcasters. And I found some great information. Then when I started getting invitations to speak, I scoured the internet and Google to find things like how do you become a good speaker? So that, of course, led me to TED Talks on YouTube, which were free. And that's how I studied speaking. I would just watch the TED Talks. I would watch their style, how they moved, any free information on blogs that I could find about being a good speaker. That helped me. Then when I wanted to get like a little more advanced and I had contracts, like, so some of these events were like, they were like, send me your speaker contract. And I'm like, what's that? Like I didn't tell them that, but I ended up finding some templates for contracts online and ended up filling those out and sending to them. So like every step of the process back then for me, it was all stuff that I found for free on the internet, primarily through blogs, but also through podcasts, also through videos, but just all free information, Jared.
A lot of this stuff that you're describing, you actually break down very specific steps in the book, Stop Chasing Influencers.
Oh, yeah. We wanted to pack that book with a lot of how-to advice. And so the second half of that book, it's all, if you're building a podcast or you want to be an international speaker or a coach or a writer for places or a paid writer, we break all of that down in the book step by step. But it was all things that Jared and I, well, me and I'm guessing Jared, learned through trial and error. Wouldn't you say that, Jared?
Well, and I think most people who are listening, that's one of the ways they learn. Yeah, we get the good advice. We scour the blogs, if you will. But then it's part of doing. There's no better way to learn than by doing.
No, but the thing that, we really want to hit home in this episode, and maybe we could talk about this, Jared, is you don't have to always spend money right away. Not with me, not with Jared. You don't have to spend money right away. I think the point where you do spend money is when you've made progress on your own. You've worked hard, you've taken some steps, you've implemented, you are in a decent financial position. You don't have to be rich, but you also shouldn't be going to get payday loans and stuff like that and then trying to hire somebody. But after you've exhausted your options on your own, you've done the work, you've hustled hard, and you just need help, like, what's the next steps? What do I do? What do I do from here? That's when it's time to start thinking about hiring somebody at that point. Like we gave the example, large publications, Jared. I have a woman that hired me who had gone out there and she'd gotten into 7 or 8 publications on her own just from listening to Smart Passive Income interview. She got into 7 or 8 big publications and she was in there. She's in a good place financially and she wanted help figuring out, okay, now that I'm in here, what do I do and how do I leverage this? And then she hired me. That's kind of where it makes sense at that point where she'd already done the work on her own.
Wow. So yeah, and good for her for taking that action and then, getting to that level that most people are saying, hey, this would be nice if I could do this. Well, she just did it, just like you just did it. So, I mean, I love hearing stuff like this. I really think, people don't have to go out and squander a lot of resources. They can just go and listen to interviews. They can ask those questions in Facebook groups, check out a book from the library, scour blogs like you talked about, and you can come up with a lot of really good insights that will, I want to brag on Kim Trumbo for a minute. Kim has been a guest of the show. She put together a children's book called George the Generous Giraffe. And, almost everything that she did, she learned from free information. She did a crowdfunding campaign to raise the money to get the illustrator and get some things that she needed to get. She got the information from friends and different, blogs, and podcasts, Facebook groups, finding out, how did people do this? How do people do children's book? And over several weeks, she mapped it out. She figured it out from asking the right questions and checking out these resources that are free. And next thing you know, she's got a moderately successful children's book. She's accomplished that goal. She had a successfully funded crowdfunding campaign. I mean, that to me is super cool. If people want to check out an example of how someone went from scratch and not investing a ton of money into something that was just an idea, but then now having an end result that's positive and that is a great story for kids and that is getting the word out. I mean, that's Kim Trumbo. I think she did exactly what we talked about in this episode.
Amen. Yeah, what we hope you take away is that spending money is not always the key. And sometimes it could even hurt you depending on where you're at. Exhaust the free information. It is good. The free information is good. There's that stigma that free has like a little bit of a negative connotation. It doesn't. There is some bad free information, of course, just like there's bad paid information, but there's a lot of good free information out there that could help you where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to brag on Zach Bob, our friend from Crowdfund Genius. Like when Dan and I were trying to figure out how to do a crowdfunding campaign, we went to podcasts, we went to different, just like you said, scoured the blogs. We did our homework and we didn't pay for any of that. We did our homework and then we launched a campaign. And then fortunately that campaign was successful. But I think part of it was successful because of the homework, the free homework. So,
yep. Amen.
All right. Well, Kimanzi, I mean, this is good stuff. I really hope that people are enjoying this. We hope to hear from you, of course. If you have an example of how you've been able to leverage some free information that has been able to have an impact in your business or that message that you feel compelled to share, of course, Kimanzi and I'd love to hear from you. You can send us a tweet at Jared Easley or at Kimanzi C. And we always enjoy hearing from you. We loved a little video we got recently from Kim Trumbo, actually, where she asked one of her coworkers if he knew John Maxwell, and of course he didn't. But that was a hilarious video.
It was hilarious.
We got a few responses on that, but Kim's video is the winner for sure. So yeah, we love it when you send us little tweets, but if you send us a little video, that's even better. So we appreciate your feedback and appreciate you listening. And Kimanzi, thank you for taking time to chat with us again today.
Yeah, thank you for having me as always. And Started the House listeners, if you found value in this, share this with a friend, please. You don't have to always spend money right away. Not with me, not with Jared. You don't have to spend money right away. I think the point where you do spend money is when you've made progress on your own. You've worked hard, you've taken some steps, you've implemented, you are in a decent financial position. You don't have to be rich, but you also shouldn't be going to get payday loans and stuff like that and then trying to hire somebody.